When I began this journey, I had expected trial and error. I had expected to have my nuts thoroughly shaken.
Shake your balls.
However, much like a Shaolin monk 3 weeks into his training, my difficulty expectations were thoroughly shattered. This is Fear and Hunger 2, Maso Mode. Starting out, I decided to go for Marco. Him being arguably the strongest character and all, I had imagined that this would make the challenge relatively simple. Such idealistic mindsets would soon be crushed. For my starting skills, I chose lockpicking, as this would let me access many more areas, especially in the early game, without having to rely on finding small keys. The second choice, I went for +2 agility. No real reason for this one, as I forgot what each choice did, but it did mean I could get an extra turn with just one small things amulet. I then learned bob and weave to be able to dodge attacks of enemies better, which would really help me out in many of the fights, where the enemy had a super high damage move. Then I chose escape plan, because holy shit, would I be spam escaping close to every single fucking fight I got into. And then medical goods, as those were generally more useful than drugs. Also, real quick for anyone who doesn't know, Maso Mode makes the following changes. And with that, let us begin. Setting out, I ran straight to the village on the west side of the map, looting any crates and barrels along the way, as well as encountering the maniacal woodsman. My very first fight went without any issue, coming out completely unscathed after punching his right arm off and hitting a couple more jabs straight to his torso. Maybe this mode wouldn't be so bad. If the same easy enemies on regular mode were also just as easy on Maso mode, I had nothing to worry about. After exploring the village a bit further and grabbing some more items, it was on to the bunker. But there was one issue: the headless. Normally, these guys would never be much of a problem. They could maybe manage a hit-in at most. The issue comes with damage output. Enemies in Maso mode have a 50% physical and magical damage resistance. This meant that Marco's quick jabs, which I hope to be able to carry me through most of the first bits of the game, went from doing anywhere between 120 to 180 damage twice per attack, to instead doing 60 to 90 damage twice per attack. The difference this, and also a misclick where I attacked the pause made, was immense. And I was already left with just 23 health from one of the easiest starting fights in the whole game. I healed up and continued into the tunnels, where I made yet another discovery: Abella. Since Maso mode starts you on day 3 night, Abella's moon-scorched form was active. She is able to do insane damage and instant kill you with her arms if you miss a coin flip. Needless to say, I was not ready to fight her. My dumbass also couldn't find the second gas can needed for the generator to power the elevator, so I just left. I then visited our good friend, the mayor. You know, he might kidnap girls sometimes, however, such as the way of the friend. Sometimes one will ignore a person's actions, so long as kindness is shown to them personally, which is the case if you choose the correct dialogue options. I get the key, and I continue forward. Outside, I end up cornering myself, leading to a double fight. The first one, with the villager, no problem. It is with the priest where I face some issues. I neglected to remember any of the intended strategies for taking these guys down. With me instead attempting to bob and weave a hurting spell, it would seem the game was incredibly disappointed with my choice, as it decided to crash as a result of my below average intelligence decision making. This time, I decided to go for a different path, one that followed the coast to the east. After looting, I ran into a moon-scorched. I had expected this guy to not be a problem, to be on the same level as the villagers who I took out without trouble. I was, however, proven quite wrong in this assumption, as even with a 200 damage crit, he was still standing and pulled off an impressive 97 damage in one move and left me with an infection. I encountered this enemy yet again, but decided to make a much smarter decision to escape. I then made yet another mistake by stepping onto a nail, which I had no green herbs to fix, nor a bone saw. This meant I was on borrowed time. If I didn't find either of those 2 items, I would die. Thankfully, there was a bone saw spawn location right nearby me, which I quickly made my way to, and pled a farewell to my leg. I didn't expect to make any progress with this life anymore, only to use it to figure out some of the Maso mode strategies. I did not use this chance well, as all I learned was that the enemy with the pipe is a rather large threat. For the third life, I took the same route, only this time I decided I wanted to know what was making that buzzing sound in this house, constantly. I was given an answer which shocked me to my core, but not anything below that. I then continued until I encountered the priest yet again, but this time I knew my chances were low, so I would simply run from the battle and avoid this encounter. On this life, I came to encounter and understand one of the biggest changes present in Maso mode, the moon scorch timer.
Oh fuck.
If you spend too long outside, the moon god Rher will notice you, at which point he will look to you and be confused as to why you are still alive. I decided to make a rather ballsy move, a move that could either see me hitting the RPG Maker Game Olympics or setting sail for the depths. I was gonna try to fight Abella. The pummel attacks, I already had my strategy. I was gonna bob and weave and luck out on her missing. The Doomsday Trumpet that kills you in 2 turns. I wasn't aware it did that at the time, and I also wasn't aware that it in fact didn't work for my specific character. Grasp of a Giant, unavoidable coin flip attacks. What could I do against this? Just hit that coin flip, bitch! Yes! This is how we... I didn't end up trying this again. After a few more attempts, I finally managed to figure out where the 2 guaranteed gas canister spawns in the tunnels were, which was quite the discovery and let me get the other key for the city gates. Overjoyed, I rushed to the city gates. This was my chance to finally make a big progress, to explore new areas, and yeah, that didn't last very long. But this was not a fruitless endeavor, for with this, I now had the knowledge on the path I would take. I would head east towards the village, speak to the mayor, grab the key without fighting him, grab some books from the library at the mansion, grab the other key from the guard in the tunnels, and head on to the city. Using the Book of Enlightenment that I found, I decided that I would make a save point here. The first part of my extensive journey was now complete, and I had much more to learn and see. After a few more deaths and a bit more exploring, I eventually made my way to Prehivo Bop, which let me finally get massive weapons that I would use to thoroughly demolish the tougher enemies without any prior preparation or consent, as I would thrust. Next up on the list was the orphanage. I would go there to grab the Effigy, as at this point in the run, I had not been made aware that I could use the Hexen there. It was going well with me exploring the decrepit basement and finding quite good loot. That was until I made this unfortunate mistake, and just like that, my progress was once again reset. It was with this new life that I decided to take a different approach. This time, I would check out the church, as it was generally safer than going to the orphanage. Despite a small beating I took from one of the headless, it all went relatively well. I obtained the required effigy and got out using the elevator, without even having to get into an encounter with the mind control enemies. Okay, he just didn't notice me for some reason. I mean, I'll take it. What I did not anticipate right after was the moon god timer starting so early. As it turns out, the timer for the moon god is much slower near the start, which I was still used to at this point. So when it came on suddenly, I wasn't anywhere near any potential cover. I decided it may be worthwhile to get the goat as a party member, as he was the only party member that was available to me at the moment, since I didn't have necromancy for any of the ghouls. So, avoiding the death mask and the vial, I managed to make it back to the woodsman's cabin. The woodsman did not take kindly to my presence, but I wasn't done yet. I was pissed. The vial tried to come up and kill me again. Headshot, easy. And this time, I not only dodged the axe attacks of the woodsman, but I hit the coin flip to avoid the wrath of his organ of lust before it sprouted cells of life down my esophagus without any terms of agreement. The arm loss luckily didn't affect me at all, as quick jabs did the same amount of damage regardless. I obtained my first party member. This goat would be my savior. He could tank damage for me, and damage essential body parts, which would let me be far more effective in combat. After heading back into the city, another movement issue caused me to be forced to take on a fight with this bell end. Thankfully, the goat would prove itself useful by aiming for the spear arm and missing, at which point the enemy would then choke me.
He one-shots. Dude, what the fuck?
And just like that, this life proved worthless yet again. With my progress lost and nothing accomplished, after this I spent the next hour trying and failing all of the previous paths and strategies I had already tried. This brute force method proved ineffective. My hope was dwindling. I found myself contemplating whether to give up now. This might have just been a challenge I couldn't really finish. Perhaps I had signed off on this hand of fate, condemning myself to a life unworthy of recognition. I had expected this mode to be like taking a bite out of a jawbreaker, time-consuming and tough, but doable. Instead, it was more like taking a bite out of a live grenade, chewy with poor texture. I went back to the orphanage. This time, I had made it to the Rher dimension, where the Effigy was. Only there was one issue, the weeping scope. Despite my subpar movement, luck was on my side, with him skipping turns and missing shots. I had the opportunity to end this here and now, so long as I played my hand of blackjack just right. However, just like hitting on a 15, some things are just usually not meant to be.
Great.
And with that, I ended off my first day of this challenge. The next day proved surprisingly fruitful. The mood was high.
Alright, come on. Come on, Johnny. Fuck yeah! Man in Dreams Flyer.
And my luck was insane. This time, I went to the church and then the orphanage, where I remembered that these children actually die in one pistol shot, which I used to my advantage to farm heads that I could use for skill points later on. And I even got the effigy using my superior movement skills to juke around the weeping scope. I also found a Fear and Hunger book.
Let's go!
And I used that to finally save at Perhevelbop with big progress, with me now having 2 of the 3 effigies. In order to make up for my failed killing of Moonscorched Levi, I decided to go kill fake Levi, at which point I learned just how powerful guns are against me as well. I then checked the White Mold apartments for the final effigy, which went off without any issue, since moving around the neighbors is rather simple and luck was on my side in escaping the few times that I did mess up. The apartments probably contain the easiest effigy to get, so it's good I saved it for last. Unfortunately, I would die right after, so none of this really mattered, and I don't know why I even talked about this, to be honest. I then had many failed goes, where I walked around trying to find places to go. At this point, I really, and I mean really, started losing it.
Why can it- Dude, is one attack that's an insta-kill not enough? You gotta do 2 in 1 turn? And... oh my god. It's always how do you get shot by a blind man? It's alright, it's alright. We're still in the game, baby. We're still in the game. How do you miss? He's blind!
This challenge was taking its toll. The exhaustion I felt mentally was comparable to the anguish I felt checking the comments on my videos. Thankfully, I learned to accept this and moved it into what the fuck did I just write?
Just keep walking that way. Don't fucking... why does he turn around? This motherfucker. Shit! We in a bit of trouble here!
I then found out that glass shards are pretty damn broken, so that was good until I died.
What can I say? Fucking piece of shit game!
This time, I was ready. I was gonna kill that woodsman and get my goat friend back yet again, using my newfound strat of glass shards to the head. This was rather ineffective. About half an hour of attempts with no real progress later, I made it to the side entrance of the town that led into the woods. Going here was risky as hell. Not only are there various traps to fall into and die if I'm not careful, but I had the moon god waiting for the opportune moment to just grab and spread me apart. I made this mad dash and managed to make it to the tent just in time. Next stop, the house next to the train, which would be the next bit of safe cover. I sprinted to get those cheeks, but alas, it was not enough.
Nice. Good game.
And so, it was back to the chopping block with very little accomplished. Some lives more accomplished than others.
Tails. Fuck.
In one of them, I remembered, right, I have guns now, so I can just gun this bastard down. Such strategies did not matter, as simple misclicks ultimately brought the whole thing down, like a bird to an airplane engine. After over an hour of trying the same, repetitive, and fucked strats, I had enough. I figured what I'm really missing is skills. I'm so far into the game, and yet I'm still on my starting skills, even though I have the necessary soul stones to progress. I'm doing shit damage, which is causing me to die constantly. To change this, it was time for me to go back and get revenge on an enemy I previously thought to be too dangerous to face alone. Abella. Turns out, with my newfound guns, I could just blow her arms off and stop her from being able to do any kind of meaningful attacks other than tackles, which, while damaging, weren't anywhere near the level of even the regular moon-scorched enemies I had to fight. And she went down with really no strategy other than using the gun in the overworld. This was joyous. With her soul, I now had the ability to get the weapon craft skill, which would enable me to obtain the meat grinder. I followed this up with an insane run to the woodsman's house to get the goat. After some more crazy luck on escaping from fights and some rather poor luck on winning fights,
Are you fucking kidding me?
I made it back to the train and saved. This chapter was finally complete. I then decided to test something out. This whole time I had only been using the God of Fear and Hunger statues and Book of Enlightenments to save. I was quite sure that sleeping would just lead to me dying, but I really wasn't sure. Maybe I did actually have just one free save point. No. Anyway, my new strat from here on out would be to run to the sewers and enter the city that way, avoiding any enemies along the way. I would then exit through the central manhole in the city, and then run to the White Mold apartments to grab the last effigy. I would then head back to the church, and hopefully be able to make it to the Hexen needed to upgrade my abilities. All was going well in this life until I had this encounter occur. Normally, this would be no big deal, as I could just escape, but that failed. It was only a 25% chance to fail, but I can understand how sometimes you can just get unlucky. Fortunately, they didn't do too much damage, and I had the chance to run again. The chance to fail and escape this time was only 10%.
What the fuck? And it misses again.
Now, despite some troubles, the goat and me managed to survive another set of attacks. Failing to escape this one again was only a 10% chance, so it had to work this time, right?
Running away fails 3 times. What the fuck?
Unfortunately, the goat did not survive this next one. The goat was basically useless to me anyway. I really didn't need him. I would escape and do the rest of this all on my own, as I had done before. I was so sure of this, I even made a daring bet.
Okay, if it fails 4 times, I'm ending the fucking stream.
Surely there was no chance that I would fail the escape a 4th time in a row. Was there?
Okay, well, I guess the stream's over then.
Doing some highly advanced and complex calculations, we can find that what just happened has a 0.025% chance of occurring, or around a 1 in 4,000 chance. To put that into perspective, opening a gold in CSGO is just under a 1 in 400 chance, so that is about 10 times more likely to happen. Only instead of me being able to convert these to real-world dosh, P. Diddy was in charge of the transaction, and he converted it all to baby oil. And so I fulfilled my promise and ended the stream to continue the next day. Mood was quite high this time around too. I was making huge progress until some poor movement ended in a death. And also thus made me realize how subpar in quality Black Caliph actually was as a party member. He would just attack the worst body parts possible, miss, and even on the rare occasion he does hit something, he would do next to no fucking damage. And then this useless worm with 0 redeeming qualities, pile of trash, uncurable idiot of the highest degree will randomly leave your party sometimes to ask for a carrot. After about 30 minutes of attempts, I had finally managed to get a good run going. I had acquired the final effigy from the apartments, and thus it was just a matter of getting back to the church. While on this path, I had made a critical mistake. I had decided to go down to visit the bar house in order to reset the Rher timer. This unfortunate play led to this occurring.
Hard right now. Oh, it's fine. Just escape, come on, please, you fucking piece of shit!
And this was how I would lose the progress on this most promising run of the day yet.
I got the salmon snake, come on, man. You hit me twice, I missed, oh. Yes!
The gods have shined their graces onto me. Now I finally had access to the underground section of the church, and I was not taking any chances. This led to the moon-scorched Marina encounter, which, unlike some other moon-scorched, is incredibly easy, even on Maso mode, as all you have to do is just use a murky vial, and she is completely useless, unable to perform any attack towards you. Then I went to fight Osa, unintentionally as I had simply bumped into him while checking the surrounding area. This fight proved rather difficult, as he was able to dish out a ton of damage with his hurting spell, and this useless retard did the one useful thing he's ever done in his miserable life and tanked a hit for me at the end. Now, how about we take a step back for a moment and talk about the Sergal. This was my final fight. If I failed this now, I would have to do all of that over again, and I would be no closer to getting the skills I needed from the Hexen. My choices had to be made carefully. What would reduce my chance of death the most? That's right, bob and weave.
But in the end,
I had to rethink my strategy. The plan for this time around, at least the rough one I had constructed in my head, was to try and return once more to the orphanage. For you see, the orphanage had something grand available to me, the Hexen. With this, I would be able to obtain skills that would allow me to do actual damage to opponents. Wouldn't that be wonderful and greatly reduce my woes? And so I started preparing, killing all of the moon-scorched enemies that wouldn't fight back in the Dock Bay area, as well as avoiding the actual dangerous moon-scorched, and believe me, this task was more time-consuming and difficult than you could possibly imagine.
It's alright, we just go for the head and he's instantly dead. Instantly, just like that, yes. Oh. What is going on? It doesn't even matter what you attack, it doesn't even matter what you attack. You're gonna get the kill anyway. These guys don't ever fight back.
But with some trouble, I had managed my task, and with this, a new discovery was made, the sewers. I could just go through them to sacrifice heads and get soul stones. I decided that the church would be my best bet for sacrificing the heads, so long as I was cautious. I managed to sacrifice my heads to get soul stones. Now it was time to get out. It appeared to look like a clear exit, but my path was interrupted by this guy. But it was fine. I would lead him out and then slip past to leave. And with that, this run was once again over. And so it was back to farming heads at the seaside village, where I was outmaneuvered greatly.
This game is so...
After some more farming, I managed to get all the heads I needed, and decided that perhaps a smarter idea would be to return to the village house that had a head sacrifice circle in the basement. And then it was time for the city. I would head through the previously discovered sewer path back to the main part of the city and arrive at the orphanage. My mind would take a further push down the barrel.
Ugh! Why does it put the enemy there?
Oh! Oh! It is worth noting that I was working on this video before I finished this run fully. Even now, writing and narrating this, no, not narrating this, I still have yet to finish it fully. During this clip, I gunned down this bellend with a shotgun. And what do I loot from him? 10 shillings. This is something that I would realize the significance of later on. I had finally managed to make my way to the orphanage and to the Hexen. But there was one problem. The Hexen was locked. The only way to open it? Fighting Father Hugo. I had come too far to give up. I crafted some murky vials and prepared to fight. The goat died first turn, but fuck that guy. With guarding, I could take 24 damage only. This was my chance. 150 damage. I'm done. I'm not playing anymore. 154 damage. This was certainly a fitting end for this stream. After an eventful 5 days off, partly because my monitor broke, we returned once more to beat this piece of shit. And this time, I had the extra knowledge needed to be able to complete this. We made it to the city and passed the guards. Now, what was this extra knowledge I had obtained? Small Things Amulet. It would give me an extra turn in battle since I already had the plus agility from Marco's backstory. Oh yes! I prepared by putting on some sturdy overalls, and while I forgot to put it on before the fight, I would soon use the Purifying Talisman for even more damage protection. With guarding, this would now let me actually survive 2 full attacks from Father Hugo. I used a Murky Vial, which did an extra 300% damage, thanks to Father Hugo's use of Scorched Earth. He was also losing a percentage of HP each turn, thanks to the small burning status effect. Now, it was just about surviving until he had taken enough damage so that I could finish him off.
Oh, god damn it, bitch, why?
But you already know this wasn't stopping me. I was going back there and I was killing that motherfucker. But this time, I didn't need no goat with me. I'm leaving him at Pre-Evil Buff. Let's get after this. I hit him with the guard. Pussy ass damage, then the Murky Vial, then the second guard. This one packed more of a punch, and now Scorched Earth would mean higher damage from here on out. I had to heal. With 100 HP, I should be able to survive whatever he throws at me. For whatever reason, Father Hugo was feeling like a bit of a pacifist today, and used Combustion, which does far less damage than the Pyromancy trick. After another Murky Vial, he decided to only use one Pyromancy trick. This was honestly quite strange, but it was just what I needed. And then again, Combustion plus Pyromancy trick, far less damage. Now with this, he should have hopefully taken enough damage over time for me to be able to finish him. With a final desperate rev up and attack, I thrusted at him with my spear like I had just taken 5 tablets of Viagra. Oh yes! Yes! My desperation had subsided. I had finally taken the life of my most troubling opponent yet. From taking 150 damage per attack to killing him relatively easily in just 3 attempts, I was moving up in this world. But before the Hexen, I took a quick trip to the basement of the orphanage to shoot some of the mutants to get heads for soulstones to upgrade my shit. Now, the decision. What should I spend these on? After a bit of contemplating, I decided to get all of Abella's skills, because they're all good, but mainly for weapon craft so I could make the meat grinder. Red Arc for crazy headshots thanks to it ignoring all evasion. Perfect Guard to have my guard reduce damage even more, and Adrenaline Rush so I can do 30% more damage when a fight lasts 3 turns or more. Using the Hexen does get the Golbros after you in Maso mode, and I was rather afraid on whether this would be what ended my run. My fear was soon quelled as they were very simple to dodge. I felt that I had made enough progress now to consider saving my game, so I went back to one of the few save spots I had left, which was the bookstore near Central Pre-Evil. I should be able to make it fast. No! No. No, this had already happened once before. 4 escapes failed in a row. Would it be the same this time? It's just not, I'm not going out like that. Okay, thank you, Jesus. The hand of fate decided now would not be misery, but perseverance. I also quickly took care of the apartments as I was confident I could get through this without dying, and doing so would mean I would have far less to repeat after I inevitably died later after saving. And after some precise maneuvering, I was free. Fucking finally, dude. Now, it was time for Rancid Sergal. I also found that Wrench Toss seems to work with any weapon the first time you use it after getting it, which was pretty useful since it meant I just had a free stun without needing the pipe wrench. Now, I'm not gonna bother dramatizing or sugarcoating any of this. I died again, okay? Did you really expect me to beat this guy without any extra preparations other than just getting a few skills, most of which I didn't even use for this fight? New strat. Go through the sewer next to Pre-Evil Bop, make it to the west side of the city. From there, go into the woods and make it to the hidden tunnel in the woods with stitches, all while attempting RNGesus for escapes from every encounter in order to grab the bench grinder, craft a meat grinder, and use it to defeat Rancid Sergal. Now, would you believe me if I told you that after about 45 minutes of failed attempts, I had a promising attempt where I made it to the woods and grabbed the bench grinder, killing not only an owl cultist, but also Olivia's doppelganger, which I must say was rather poor judgment, as Olivia is the only fight in the whole game that applies the irritation status effect, which increases damage taken by 10% and reduces the chance of your attacks hitting by an additional 30%, and the only way to cure this is to use a Sylvian circle to heal. Rather curious game design, wouldn't you say? Anyway, as I was saying, after doing all of this, my run would end not to random luck or a slight misjudgment, but rather pure incompetence on my part, as when I entered the bookstore, I tabbed out of the game, assuming my safety.
Pretty good so far. Oh. You know, Oh, well that's a funny way to end it now, isn't it?
After another 20 minutes, I was actually quite tired of dying to such foolish nonsense, and despite my willingness to give up now, I pushed forward. I was gonna go in raw. This is that uncooked chicken.
Just punch myself.
Useless. But I would not give up so easily. I had to make it past this guy, to form a plan before I had completed my original mission that would let me progress even further. This time, I employed the use of alcohol to aid me in my journey, entering the fight with 50 mind. Why did I do this? Red arc stuns the body parts that it hits. Since in this fight, the guy only attacks with his hands and nothing else, I could just stun them both and be completely safe. Maybe if I had used this strategy better, but unfortunately I didn't, instead attempting to use some shitty herb mix with the hope that it would heal me, and trying to use bob and weave, which I found out is actually useless thanks to my panophobia, which increases the chance of being hit by 50%, basically making bob and weave just restore the base dodge chance, which isn't very high. I had gotten to panophobia from being on 0 mind all the time, since I wanted to save all of the mind healing items I could for the final fight. But my blackjack hand wasn't done yet. I hit and was given a new card, metaphorically of course, as the card that hit was actually just the idea of me using my brain. I remembered from the other time I played how someone in chat had mentioned that dying to needles actually resets my phobia. I assume this to be a simple story of acceptance. Once one person's mind is broken, they orgasm and have found new joy in life. Their fears broken through with a newfound purpose, no longer fearing the same. What the fuck am I even talking about? Getting rid of my panophobia means I will now take 50% less damage from every enemy, as well as having a 50% buff to my evasion rate. This was huge, as it meant bob and weave would actually do something now. Before the fight, I decided to increase my mind to full for this fight. Mine goes down super fast, and I didn't want to waste any of the few mind restoring items I had. I went back to the church and faced the rancid Sergal. Turns out the red arc was a lot better than I had given it credit for, since I could literally just stun both arms and he would be completely useless except for his coin flip attack. Thankfully, however, I had applied the evasion buff on myself through bob and weave, and I managed to dodge it anyway despite failing the coin flip. And with that, the arm of the rancid Sergal was gone and I had won. I explored the surrounding area. The blue door house was now available to me, which had the only usable Hexen in the game now. This would be my home. I did not wish to save yet, however. I didn't think it would be worth saving without getting the meat grinder, since that would be an extra 20-minute trek each time, even if I did manage to luckily find a small things amulet from one of the trash cans. So, after another AFK session at the bar to bring my mind up, as well as me forgetting to take this text off the screen, even despite someone in chat attempting to tell me,
hey, I'm already done waiting for mind. I'm making progress now.
I had made it back to the bunkers, and I had obtained the bench grinder and the scrap metal I was looking for. All seemed good. Now all I had to do was get back to the blue house and save. Well, at least I knew a clear plan for next time, and now we arrive at quite possibly the saddest stream of all.
Fuck's sake!
This time, I decided that I would go and grab the meat grinder first, and save dying to needles for later on in the run, as I really did not wish to constantly keep track of my mind, since if it went to 0, I would get panophobia again, and would have no way to fix it this time. I did decide to still idle in the bar though before getting the meat grinder, just so I could have the chance to use red arc against some of the annoying enemies. I did think of an idea to get around this boring part of idling for 5 minutes. Fuck! It was clear this challenge was having some sort of effects on me. Whoa! Whoa! I did find that I was a bit short on cash for the small things amulet, but using my skills of being a homeless man, I scoured some trash to find the remaining money.
Oh, look, it's gonna be in that trash can. Rotten meat! Oh! Yo!
With 2 small things amulets, I could once again escape from every encounter using the battle menu. Since this is programmed in the default way for RPG Maker, what this means is that it compares your agility to the enemy's agility to determine the chance of you escaping. If you have at least double the enemy's agility, this would be a 100% chance. Before my escape from the tunnels, I had one more dilemma to solve.
Okay. Unfair bias. But it's been heads 3 times in a row. So even though it's still technically a 50-50 chance, the chance of it landing on heads again, right, 4 times in a row, that's pretty low. Okay.
After a close call with the mob cornering me, I managed to escape through pretty much complete dumb luck. And then I went back to the sewers to finally kill all of the Moonscorch there for free heads, and without doing so having the potential to put me at 10 HP. And then it was back to some AFK farming, where I once again took some amusement on the side, and my retardation peeked out into the outside world even further.
Hell yeah. What am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? What even?
And now we were back at the rancid Sergal, which with the combination of red arc and meat grinder went down super easily. Next order of business, I needed more heads for skills, so I went back to the seaside to slaughter everyone there yet again. Everything was going smoothly until on my trek back...
Oh, what?
Our good friend, Caligura. He comes out of the sewers once you run past it enough times. Fortunately for me, I had the meat grinder and red arc on my side. I could stun his body to stop him from performing the poison attack he does. He only had 1 attack that would be able to hit me now, and perfect guard would reduce the damage of this even further.
What, even with guard he kills me?
Turns out, however, he is exceptional at breaking through guards, as him doing the attack once did a whole 117 damage even with guarding. And just like that, an hour of progress was lost. If I couldn't go back through the sewers, I would have to go through the main entrance to the city. The village area wasn't a problem. There was a death mask, sure, but he could be pretty much permanently disabled with a bear trap, and the vial would die very easily to my meat grinder. It was the entrance on the city side that was the issue, as I had led a death mask, a warden, and 2 bellends right to the entrance, so anytime I went in, I was practically guaranteed to have my anal hole explored. So my new strat was to simply lead them away from the entrance before getting the meat grinder. This would let me move around them far easier in the future, and thus allow for this path to actually be possible. This task seems easier written than it actually is to do practically, because constantly I would get into fights with the enemies here, and since I still didn't have the second small things amulet at this point, any one of those times I could fail to escape and that life would be over. Now, I really wish I had more to say about this stream since it was on the longer side out of all of the ones that I did, but really that's where it ended. I tried this strategy for another hour and a half, but ended up failing in some way, whether it was due to me being cursed with misfortune or trapping myself with the mob. Something always got in my way.
Should work, hopefully. You motherfucker! Like there's that. It doesn't even look like there's a fucking wall yet. Oh my god. So much to do still. Fuck off! Stop fucking moving in that direction, you piece of shit! Oh, I thought I. Oh my god, nice. Yes! Yes! That's what I've been waiting for.
And with that, I had made 0 real progress this stream, though I suppose I had a bit of a better idea on what I should do next. The next stream started with misfortune.
Yo, get this shit out. Get this out. What did that just do? Oh my fucking... I am pissed! Why is this going below?
Thankfully, my luck in the game would change for the better. I may have died a few times at the start, though this did not discourage me. If anything, it only made me more motivated, because I knew that I was dying mainly to being unlucky, rather than not having a clear strategy. Speaking of, I made a few changes to my strats. I would still go get the meat grinder and kill the rancid Sergal. However, on the way, I would also pick up this leechmongering, as someone in chat had recommended it to me, as it heals for each hit, and since the meat grinder hits 3 times, this was an insane amount of healing each each turn. I also started shooting some bellends as they had a chance to drop 10 shillings upon death, which would help me make significant progress towards obtaining another small things amulet. I got into a fight with one of the jobs. However, as I said,
there's no way I die to this.
No way I die to this. Way I die to this.
Oh, wait, no. Oh, shit. Oh.
Next run, we had to get those 10 shillings. And then we had a very unfortunate mistake occur.
Oh, fuck. I activated the mob. Shit. I forgot they spawned there. Fuck. Shit. No.
And still no 10 shillings.
Lucky coin, fuck.
I did then, however, make it to the tunnels. I then had someone in chat tell me that they in fact had enough mind healing items, even in Maso mode, to avoid getting panophobia for the majority of the game. Surely this couldn't be true though, right? No way, nah. And then, as usual, the mob would end this run as I was too much of a broke boy to get the small things amulet. And then I cornered myself. But thankfully, my woes were answered.
Let's go! Okay.
And I had found enough other money for that second small things amulet. I got everything I needed, but before I returned, there were some more heads from the Moon Scorched, where someone gave me some soundly advice.
Ignore 2 or 3 times? No, it's not 2 or 3 times. It is not 2 or 3 times.
Thankfully, this would not be the run ender, and I would continue forward uncalm. Until I hath made it to the village, where I would get the most unexpected greeting yet.
Oh, I never trapped the death mask here. What the fuck, dude? You fucking can't. Dude, how fast can he run? Jesus.
Despite his ferocious speed, he was really no match. And then more farming at the seaside, woohoo! I had a whole 20 heads to show for it. Now, before the Sergal fights, we had to AFK for even more, so you know what that means.
This guy? Oh my god!
And then, it was once again finally time for me to face this guy in a duel. A duel for the ages. The victor of which would decide... Yeah, he was pretty easy. Now, you might think to be safe, I would go and save straight away, but I was feeling frisky, so I decided to save myself some time. I would farm mind at Perheval Bop and die to needles.
Needle whip? Hell yeah.
In order to be able to reset my panophobia. While waiting for mind this time, I figured I should practice some of my drawing skills.
I almost drew like a windmill there. Okay, that looks more like a sideways ceiling fan. It's like this is like using an Etch-a-Sketch. It looks like a whale behind a football net. Okay, now we got like a little sailboat. Look at that. That was almost a rabbit. Okay, that's almost something crazy. I don't even... what am I drawing? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I do not have that kind of money.
After getting rid of my phobia, I had made my way back to the house where I finally saved.
Progress has been made.
Now I would use this new save to test out the true power which I held now. And let me tell you, it was far greater than I had imagined.
And I can reach mongering is so obvious. Get full HP. Fucking overpowered, dude.
And you know, I was pretty overpowered, except for on the Bellens, those guys were still pretty hard. This is where I would end the stream this time, but now I knew what I had to do the next time. Next stream, I was determined to make this the final stream. The one where I would finally face Rher and all of the Moon Scorched contestants. I decided to start this out with killing the mob again. For no real reason, honestly, I just didn't like them. I would be humbled, unfortunately, as Guard was my savior. I was not so powerful that I could ignore that just yet. I had to stay focused, so I went and killed Pocket Cat, no problem. And then the mechanical dance, which was equally as easy, though I did take quite a bit of damage. Then the final enemy in the museum. Judgment, which was so easy, I actually got all my HP back. I then got a few more skills, the two most important being Poison Tip for free extra damage at the hefty cost of 5 mind, and Mischief of Rats, which doesn't do too much damage, but hits every body part and stuns them, so you could literally just use this and enemies just couldn't do shit. And then it was a fight with the mob, because fuck those guys. Playing it slightly safer this time, I came out 3 heads richer and without much damage taken. More mind farming where I attempted to draw something coherent this time, but lacked the artistic skill. Now, we went to see our old friend at the orphanage, the Weeping Scope, who was being rather loud.
Yo, Weeping Scope. Why does it sound like there's 3 of them? Yeah, no big deal at all.
Then I would run into an unfortunate issue, the Rher timer.
Bro! Already? What the fuck is with this game? Oh, thank God. Infinite sprint bug. Oh my God. That just saved me. That just saved me, I think. That was so close! Oh my God! Oh.
Now, it was time to face Dysmorphia, probably the second most threatening Moonscorch fight, as she was able to dish out insane damage with hurting. Thankfully, however, Mischief of Rats would stop her from doing pretty much anything of actual value, and thus she died incredibly easily. Next up, the Mastermind. Now this guy was a huge threat. He could, yeah, I already beat him in a way worse state. He was easy as fuck. Now, do you remember what I had said before about people ignoring another's actions so long as kindness is shown to them personally? Well, we're about to change that, as I had to go back and kill the mayor. I was also quite scared of this fight, as he did some of the highest damage out of any of the Moonscorched, and I had not even attempted to face him before. Perhaps this guy would be my end, but I had to try. I played it safe, starting with a guard. He didn't do that much damage when guarding, so that was good. Then I hit him with the bob and weave and a meat grinder. I got lucky enough that he only managed to hit me once, and now it was time for me to do even more, damn it. Yeah, that was way easier than expected. Only 2 more opponents left now, both of which presented the most fear for me. Valkyrie, for she hath the javelin ability of the Bellends, combined with her regular claw attacks that hit twice. This was quite the situation. Thankfully, however, being the gambler I am, I went for bob and weave, even while at somewhat low HP, and dodged one of her claw attacks. This was incredibly lucky, as if her other claw attack had managed to hit, I would have died. This was a piece of divine intervention. I must not waste this chance. I healed up just to be safe, and then attacked her torso. After this, my next point of attack would be to, okay, she's dead. You know, I'm starting to think I might be a bit more overpowered than I had originally thought to be. Now, it was just one final fight I had to face. Caligura, the same one who had previously killed me in one turn, even with me guarding. I headed into the sewers, fully awaiting Caligura to appear at any time to shove his balls in my face. But this didn't happen. I had managed to make it back to the city without him appearing. Now, since I didn't want to repeat all of that over again, I figured I would just go ahead and save at the church, so in case I did die to Caligura, I wouldn't have to repeat much of anything. Since I still had the ability to get another Book of Enlightenment from Pocket Cat using those contestant heads that I got.
Nope, nobody can stop me. Nothing can stop me.
Now, I was on the hunt for Caligura. I would find him and kill him.
Is he over here? Come on, Caligura. Caligura! There he is! There he is! That's him right there. Caligura! You piece of shit! But he doesn't come out of... Yeah, come on! Let's go, let's go, let's go.
I started by hitting him with the Mischief of Rats to stun him. He vomits on me, but it doesn't do shit. Then bob and weave to a slash with the meat grinder. He hits me with that hanky-panky, the one that ended me with guard before, 23 damage total. Hell yeah. And then another slash. After a final vomit, he was down.
Yes! Whoa! What the fuck do you think of that, you little bitch?
Once again, a lot easier than I expected, though he did probably pose the highest threat, so that's an accomplishment still. I honestly wasn't even sure what skills to get anymore, so I decided I would just go and buy the Book of Enlightenment from Pocket Cat and save deciding on my skills for later.
There he is. Hey, fuck, what? He doesn't spawn?
Oh right, I killed him. Well, it's fine. Even if I die now, I wouldn't have much to repeat. We were still chill. Now, this was the final battle. I had to make sure my preparations were tight. I had to get everything right. This would be the defining battle of the ages for the history books. I start out by using Poison Tip. This would let my meat grinder do poison damage, which was insane as it would be another percentage of the enemy's HP each turn. I had decided to take off the Salmon Snake rune, as I thought this fight didn't have any attacks that could take my limbs off or cause bleeding, and instead replaced it with a Small Things amulet. Why do this when I already have an extra turn without the Small Things amulet? Because this final fight, Rher actually had additional agility, so I would need 21 agility to get an extra turn. Using one Small Things amulet put me just above that at 23. I then had the Leechmonger ring, as I was super low on healing items, so I was hoping, praying that this would give me the push I needed in order to be able to out-heal most of the damage I take during the fight. And then finally, the Waigagatsu amulet. This would increase my critical hit chance significantly, which would work to not only let me do an insane amount more damage, but also heal even more thanks to the higher damage I applied. And then for armor, I just went with the best I had available, which was pretty good, although not the best I could find. One final preparation I had to make. I injected some heroin, as heroin had all of these crazy effects. You know, I just realized writing this now that 18 times 1.3 is 23, so I didn't even need that Small Things amulet to get an extra turn if I had used heroin. Whatever, no time to think about that. It was time for battle.
Let's go!
Before anything, I had to fight Rhere's little servant dog that barks and wags his tail for him. I hit him with the bob and weave at the start, and then started going to town on his torso, managing to dodge just enough feather attacks to survive. Also, I realized that his feather rain actually does apply bleeding. Perhaps keeping the Salmon Snake rune on would have been the better play, but it doesn't matter. I healed up and continued thrusting, and he died in just a few hits. It was time for the opponent I had most feared, the opponent that had the highest chance of slobbering me. I started out by healing, since I was quite low. He then hit me with the Moon Scorch, 38 damage, not too bad, but as it turns out this attack also applies fire debuff on top of my bleeding debuff, which was rather unfortunate as I would now be taking quite a lot of damage per turn. I then tried to hit him with Mischief of Rats to stun him. As it turns out, this does not actually work at all, which I probably should have expected honestly. Then I hit him with the regular attack, and also forgot about his mind attacks. Coin flip. Barely hit it.
Go!
This was my time to use all of those mind healing items I had been saving until now, to be able to out-heal the mind attacks and stop me from losing my mind. I then revved up and did such an insane amount of damage, I almost healed to full from 30 HP. I then kept on drinking vodka like a divorced father living in Birmingham. Rher then hit me with a new attack, the Dreamscape. As it turns out, this attack does in fact have the ability to chop off your limbs. This was rather unfortunate as I needed 2 hands to be able to use the meat grinder. This kind of did fuck me an insane amount. I was also out of mixed herbs, my only healing item, and unfortunately, this would be where I would meet my end. However, I now knew the importance of the Salmon Snake rune, and so I went back yet again to kill Caligura and go back to fight Rher. But not without making some changes first. I went back to the Hexen, and I grabbed Counter Stance, Attack +1, Defense +1, La Danse Macabre, and Meditation. I also this time realized that I had enough agility to be able to get an extra turn without needing a Small Things amulet thanks to my use of heroin. Though I did not recognize that this was from heroin at the time, but regardless, I now swapped out my Small Things amulet for the Salmon Snake rune, which also prevented burns, which is sick as I thought it only prevented limb loss and bleeding. Now this time, I would not fall so easily. Starting out, I made the smarter decision to guard. Feather Rain only did 1 damage while combo guarding. Then I hit the bob and weave, and then the meat grinder on the torso. The bleeding and poison effects let me do an insane 2,700 damage per turn, and he went down in only 2 hits. Absolutely mogged. Now Rher. This time I was prepared. I would not let this bastard beat me yet again. Healed up, dreamscape, no problem. I had the salmon snake rune to protect me. Hit him, and this time I would guard. This would then lead to the realization that guarding reduces mind damage by a ton as well, which was insane. And an even more insane discovery, guarding lets you avoid the 0 mind coin flip.
Oh, and guarding stops that too. That's insane. Wait, what? Dude, I didn't know guarding stopped that. Wait, this fight is easy as shit then. This fight is so fucking easy. Holy shit.
I didn't even need those mind healing items. I could just guard every other turn, take less health damage from the attacks, and avoid the coin flip entirely. You know, this does mean that I actually made the challenge 5 times harder for myself, and wasted hours of my time trying to save up on mind healing items that I didn't even need. Whatever, no time to think about that. I revved up and attacked, hitting an 800 damage crit, and then right after, 2 crits in 1 attack. Then the dreamscape with guarding only did 9 damage, and I would immediately out-heal this damage with the leechmonger ring right after. I was fucking unstoppable. Balls out. I went in for the final strike.
Rher, come on. Let's go! Massive win! Ooh. I finally did it. I finally fucking did it. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god.
I'd won. I'd survived Maso mode and made it to the 4th day. As it turns out, this final boss fight was just a guaranteed win. If only I knew about the guarding method before wasting all of the fucking time saving healing items, getting hit constantly, taking more damage despite what this challenge had done to me. All of those deaths, all of that repetitive gameplay, all of the failed escapes, the failed fights. It did teach me something. The importance of planning. Most of my misery had come from me playing like a total dumbass, whereas if I had just stepped back for a moment and taken the time to think about what I should do, I would have made it without issue. Fear and Hunger is at its core a strategy game that took me far too long to realize. And it wouldn't have been possible without you. Everybody who checked the stream, who gave me that advice to get the leechmongering, who gave me that encouragement and made me not give up on this challenge after the very first stream, thank you. After 19 hours of attempts, I had completed this game, and I had found a new joy in strategy. I wonder how many shall make it to the end. I have no idea if this video is good or entertaining enough to warrant such a long watch time, but I appreciate all of you nonetheless. Thank you, and good night. Also check this out, it's a channel revamp. Woo!